Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Wendy.
How was your weekend?
It was pretty slow.
It was.
Yeah, it was pretty slow, but that's perfectly fine with me. So it was fairly relaxing. I watched a couple of movies, neither of them paranormal. Some of them were paranormally boring.
Oh.
But
that's never fun.
that's about it.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, pretty slow weekend, but I got a lot of stuff done. And
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Productivity.
yes, it was very productive. And so how was yours?
Mine was good. Very busy.
Okay.
And I ran the furthest I've ever run.
Well, it's always exciting to have a personal best.
Yeah. So that was exciting. I also had my first torrential downpour during a run. So
That's a good one.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad it happened because I want to be prepared and know what it's going to feel like if that should happen to occur the day of the marathon.
Well, it happened to our friend when he ran the LA marathon a couple of years ago. Our friend Swami was running a marathon and there was a torrential downpour in Los Angeles and it ended up taking like 8 hours to finish.
Oh, wow. I guess I don't remember that.
Okay.
But it sounds unpleasant.
Yes. So did you keep going or did you take a break?
No, I kept going. I didn't really have a choice because I was running out on the trails. There wasn't really anywhere to take cover,
Okay.
but it was fine. I mean, it only lasted like 5 minutes.
All right. That's not that bad then.
Yeah. It was early in the run, so that kind of sucked because then I was soggy for the rest of the...
Yeah. One time I was running in the Wisconsin Dells and I had a 20-mile run and it started coming like a tornado warning.
Oh.
And there was nowhere I could go. I was 4 miles away from the casino, which is where I was staying.
Did you go faster
Well, I
for
ran
safety?
I ran for a while until I found a house I could sit under for a little while.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be scary. I checked the forecast to make sure there wasn't any kind of severe storm warnings. I think I would have postponed my run if that had been
Right,
the case.
because if there was a tornado or something like that, like you might get to the finish line a little quicker, but you also
it's
might die
really dangerous.
or end up in Oz, and then you can run the Yellow Brick Road Marathon.
Yes, indeed. So anyway, that was fun. And I got to see a little bit more of the beautiful Wisconsin scenery that
Yes.
I've never been, parts of Wisconsin I've never been. So it was very lovely. And the Sugar River State Trail is the one I ran this time the whole way. And it was perfectly enchanting.
Does it go by Sugar River Lanes?
I think it might actually, but it's so far in the woods that I didn't see.
So you're running in the Driftless area,
Yeah.
and the Driftless area has a whole bunch of ghost stories associated with it.
It does, and it has, Bigfoot lore there as well. But I didn't see anything weird. So I saw about 7 humans
Okay.
and just wildlife, of course, cranes and cows and and I heard a chicken. I didn't see it though, but so maybe it was a ghost chicken.
All right. So there's a mystery chicken on
But
these
no ghosts or
Sugar River
Bigfoots.
Trail. Okay. And so the weirdest thing out there was you.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds like fun.
Yes.
That sounds like fun.
So we've been very busy with Sunspot.
Mm-hmm.
Doing tons of playing shows and also recording things and working up some exciting stuff for our Patreon community,
Absolutely.
which we're just really kind of winding up into the best parts of it. So I'm getting excited I've been excited about this for months, but now that our community is growing and we've got people to share the stuff with.
Well, we're going to schedule our first Google Hangout where we can talk about weird stuff with the Patreon members. And so if you guys are interested in joining that, now is the perfect time at othersidepodcast.com/donate.
Yes, definitely.
And we can share in the fun. And then also our Patreon members are the people that we take show suggestions from.
Oh, right. Yeah, for sure.
So if you have ideas for shows and want to get involved, the Patreon's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. Speaking of people that want to get involved, Wendy,
yeah,
we got 2 new iTunes reviews.
That's awesome.
Yeah, are they 5 stars? Let me see. Yep, they are 5 stars, so that we can.
Oh my gosh,
we can read them on the air if they're 5 stars.
This makes my day
because it means that the people are smart
and nice.
Yes, and they're nice.
I like nice people.
So let's start with 5 stars from Mississippi Cricket, who says, "Do you believe in ghosts? What do you get when you cross musician and a paranormal expert? An awesome podcast.
Hey,
Subscribe now, or it'll haunt you later."
Ooh,
So not only was it
That's
a review, it was like a marketing jingle for it.
I like that.
So that's
a good
great.
one.
Thank you, Mississippi
Very
Cricket.
nice.
And then we've got one from Abby Namsalot.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Should I read that one?
Yes, please do.
I love listening to this. It reminds me of my favorite parts of Coast to Coast, and it helps me get through my workday. I just started listening, but I've been listening constantly. And that's the kind of listener we like.
Yes, Abby's been nomming on our podcast.
Thank you for your noms, Abby.
Yes, all of them. All of them.
All of the noms.
And I feel like I need to read the next one because it's written by somebody named Dating the Bass Player.
Mike, is there something you need to tell us?
I don't think so. Not that I know of, but I like...
Well, they must be, whoever they are, they must be very, very patient.
Yeah. I like their attitude. So great show! Exclamation! 5 stars. Very engaging and entertaining podcast with awesome hosts. Well, thank you, Dating the Bass Player.
Thank you.
Great topics and good chemistry between the co-hosts make this a must-listen for those interested in the paranormal, the odd, or just plain cool stuff. Check it out.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's a positive review. So if you guys feel compelled to leave a review, you can just do that in iTunes. And remember, every review and star rating helps more people to see and check out the podcast. And we really appreciate it. And we read them on the air.
Yeah. So thanks for leaving those reviews, friends.
Right. And so
Listeners.
I don't think we can get in the new and noteworthy anymore. We've already been in there twice, and that was a real delight.
It was awesome.
And so I don't think we're new, but you guys are making it so that we certainly are noteworthy.
Hey. Cool.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Now, this episode, we stick around the Midwest for this particular episode.
Heart of America.
Yeah, we're going to the heartbeat of America, maybe. Motor City, USA. Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, and sorry to interrupt you, but I
Yeah.
noticed that you are also drinking out of your Kellogg's Cereal City.
Yes,
mug.
I am. Oh, yeah, and we're
We are
drinking.
both drinking out of our mugs.
Yes, so Ben, our guitar player, his mother-in-law used to work for Kellogg's in Battle Creek, Michigan. And she gave the whole band little coffee mugs that say our name on them.
Yep, a gift from a long, long time ago. But
Yeah.
man, this thing's gotten a lot of use.
Yeah, and we're both drinking out of them today.
Well, we talk about Detroit.
Right, on different sides of the city is funny enough. Okay, so that was random.
Yes, and also Kiss has a great song about Detroit.
Rock City!
That makes it extra special.
And famous musicians from Detroit include Alice Cooper, Kid Rock, more recently Eminem. They're all Detroit musicians. I don't know if they have paranormal stories.
Don't forget about the whole Motown thing.
Oh, and of course, the soundtrack of every Vietnam War movie, Motown, Berry Gordy. Well, Alice Cooper, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of paranormal stories, but you know that Alice Cooper's, the band was named after, this is a legend, the band was having a Ouija board session, and they said they had contacted a witch who was killed in the 17th century by the name of Alice Cooper.
A witch!
Yeah, bad hair.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So that's how
Wow.
because Alice Cooper was a band before it was a guy.
Well, talk about notoriety after you're gone. I mean,
Right. So now you
that
get
witch lives on and on and on, and metal lovers
right. And the
headphones every day.
because Alice Cooper's real name is Vincent Furnier, and so the original band was called like Vincent and the Spiders or something like that. So they changed the band's name to Alice Cooper, and then eventually he changed his name to Alice Cooper.
Ah.
So there's several levels there of Alice Cooper. Anyway, but that's one of my favorite Detroit musicians, and obviously has a paranormal bent. But today we're talking to the Haunt Investigators of Michigan, who's the kind of the venue. They're the official paranormal team of the venue, the Whitney Restaurant in Detroit, and that's the place that was featured on Ghost Hunters this week.
It was indeed. And we've got a good friend who has been there on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And you've heard her on this show, Lisa.
Yes, Lisa, the ghost host of Madison, is originally from Detroit, and so she's gone back and she's done some investigations with these guys when they've done the Whitney Restaurant.
Yeah, so I enjoyed watching that Ghost Hunters episode because I had seen pictures and I had, obviously talked to Lisa about her experiences there. And it was neat to see all the footage of the places where she had described being.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. And if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. I know it's on the Sci-Fi website, and of course, it'll be rerun on Sci-Fi maybe 9,000 times in the next week. But so the Ghost Hunters this week did an investigation of the Whitney Restaurant in Detroit, and let's just say they didn't find much.
Mwah, mwah.
Right, they did not find much. But, it's funny when you watch the shows, too. Like, I probably haven't watched a paranormal reality show in a while. And it's funny because... So I watched the Ghost Hunters episode, and immediately the next day when I'm at the gym, Ghost Adventures is on TV when I'm doing the cardio section. And so I start watching that, and I'm like, oh my God, you forget about that half the drama comes from like the swish pans and the music and everything going on. So if you're on a real ghost investigation, there are no swish pans. That's where the camera goes quickly from one place to the other.
Yeah.
There's no scary music. It's just you in the dark, listening and hoping to hear something.
It's always neat because they explore the whole, they go through the place.
Yes.
Every inch of it. And it was really, really a phenomenal building.
Yeah.
The history behind it's fascinating as well. So.
And we go into the history of the Whitney restaurant, which in the interview, it was built in 1890 by lumber baron David Whitney.
Right. But you didn't talk to the ghost hunters from the show. You talked to
we talked to the paranormal team who's investigated the Whitney a whole bunch of times.
Yes. So that's kind of one of their areas of expertise.
You could say that's one of their haunts.
Ah.
The haunt investigators of Michigan are the team we talked to. We talked to the Marks. Two guys
Would you
named
say
Mark.
they were on the mark?
I would say they were on the mark in their favorite haunt, the Whitney. But the thing is, what we wanted to kind of do was, so if you guys saw the show, you got a surface level investigation of the Whitney restaurant. And we wanted to go in deeper with people that had done several investigations there, that know more of the history and have gotten more evidence. So that's what we're kind of doing today, is going in deep, past where the ghost hunters go, to learn more about the Whitney restaurant in Detroit. So should we take a listen, Wen?
Let's.
Okay. I'm here with Haunt Investigators of Michigan, and they're speaking to me live from the Detroit area. How you guys doing today?
Hey, Mike, doing well.
How you doing, Mike?
Okay, so please introduce yourselves for our audience.
Well, again, we are the Haunt Investigators of Michigan. My name is Mark O, as in Ortiz.
My name is Mark W, as in Wanick.
Okay.
But they call us the Marks at the Whitney, so it's
That makes it easy.
Yeah, it kind of makes it easy rather than hey guys, Mark.
So we're talking to the Marks from Haunt Investigators of Michigan, and you guys are paranormal investigators / ghost hunters in the Detroit area, correct?
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah. But we also we are from the Detroit area, but we do move around, and we've gone from places to Salem, Massachusetts, to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. So we were in Savannah, Georgia, a couple weeks ago, and did a little mini investigation because, as everybody knows, Savannah, Georgia is like built on the dead.
Yeah, great.
Right.
Great.
They got the greatest ghost tours too.
They do,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They do. So we kind of go wherever our road takes us. We've actually even did a little sightseeing in West Virginia where the Mothman was at. So even though we're strictly paranormal, not that we're going to go investigate the Mothman.
But we like a little bit of everything. UFOs, Bigfoot.
Yeah, but we're trying to keep it all basically our eggs in one basket as far as paranormal stuff.
Okay, right on. So how long has Haunt Investigators been in business? How long have you guys been doing this?
2012.
2012.
We're actually founded in Salem.
Yeah.
I kind of like a joke almost, because we originally called ourselves the Ghost Bros.
And it was just a name that popped up. And then in Salem, and we did a little investigating in Salem while we were there, because I've always been fascinated by this. Even as a kid, I always used to see the dead, if you want to call it.
Well, hold on. Let's start there.
All right.
So Haunt Investigators of Michigan started in 2012, and you guys have been together since the beginning.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with real quick how you got interested in the paranormal in the first place. Let's start with Marco, and then we'll ask you too, Mark W.
I love it. Marco. That's perfect. Okay, that's good. Well, as a kid growing up in the house I lived in, I used to see shadow figures, if you want to call it that. And as a young adult, I continued to see them, but I didn't. I went down to the end of the hall of the house and saw somebody walk from one room to the next, and could have swore somebody was up there, but I was up there by myself. So I've always had these experiences as a kid growing up.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of fell into it as an older adult, and I just thought it was fascinating. And then, of course, you watch all the paranormal shows, and it was like, well, we can do that. Anybody can do this. So,
Right. Absolutely.
and then I met Mark, who's a longtime friend of my
Your
sister, because Mark works for Delta Airlines.
Okay.
And, so he actually has
So we take all complaints to him.
absolutely yes, he does.
I told you not to say that.
But we're real people. We got real jobs. He works for Delta. I work for AT&T, 35 years. So but we do this paranormal stuff because we love doing it. But my interest is because I had these experiences growing up.
Real quick, Marco, you grew up in the Detroit area.
Yeah.
And did you ever find out if your house had any kind of history or anything like that might have contributed to you? Was it the house, or do you think it was you?
I think it was the house. Because other members of the house, I grew up in a big family. Half the members in my family had experiences, the others didn't. But I think it's a house. The house is no longer there; it's torn down. Never did the research because back then, who knew anything about paranormal investigations as far as trying to figure the history of the house. Nobody knew to do that. At least I didn't. That's how I kind of got involved in this.
Okay. And Mark W., did you have experiences as a young man or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. As a child, I actually, for a while, I grew up in Romulus. And as a child, my bed used to get shaken at night.
Wait, so you grew up in Romulus?
As a child, until I was about 5 or 6. But my actual hometown is Northville.
Okay. I didn't know that Romulus was a town. I just thought it was one of the brothers that founded Rome, right?
No, Romulus, Michigan.
Okay.
But as a kid,
sweet name for a town.
Yeah. But as a child, my bed was constantly being shaken. Also, I've had 2 out-of-body experiences that I cannot explain. I've woken up and told my doctor everything that happened to me. And also, I've had some dreams that have haunted me. And actually, my ex-wife has had dreams that I've actually been in. Her and me actually dreamt the same dream at the same time. If I know it's kind of hard to believe, but she always said that she was always afraid that this, I don't want to say it was an entity, or I really don't know what to call it, but she said that she always feared this spirit, I guess. Okay. And she pretty much, for a while, I didn't want to believe her. I always kind of blew her off until one night we actually fell asleep and I was in her dream, and I actually felt this entity trying to harm my wife.
So that's like some Nightmare on Elm Street stuff you got going on.
And till this day, I cannot explain it, but I've had some experiences.
Okay. And so did you, in the house you grew up in, did you ever find out what was shaking the bed or anything like that?
No, we moved. That's when we moved to Northville, and I never found out what it was. So I really can't explain it, but I know that it happened for a fact. And also, I've seen a buddy of mine. I went over his house one night, and I went down to the basement. And as I'm down in the basement, I saw the shadow figure looking at me, and it literally just scared the hell out of me. And I ran upstairs, and I looked at my buddy. I said, "You're not going to believe what just happened to me. I saw a shadow figure in your basement." He goes, "Yeah, we know about it, Mark, but we just don't tell people about it. You're one of the first people that's ever seen it." So that was pretty. Okay,
so you had that's always exciting, I think, especially when you have some kind of report confirmed. You know, that when you say like, "Hey, man, I saw something weird downstairs," and that guy's like, "Yeah, dude, I saw it too." Like, don't worry, you're not crazy. It's there.
Because I really thought I was crazy, because I wasn't even going to mention it, because, like you said, well, he's going to think I'm crazy.
Right.
You know, and when I did mention it, he confirmed it, that it's there, that his family has always seen it. So
my best paranormal experience was also seeing a shadow figure when I was a teenager, and I saw it with a group of people, and everybody, we all saw it. It was just, it was unmistakable kind of thing. And I've gone into detail on this podcast before, and I talked about it, but it's those things that happen to you that sort of set you down the path. That you're like, okay, now this is something I'm into. Where a lot of people, I think Bill Murray put it best in Ghostbusters when he's like, "Stop it, Ray, you're scaring the straights." I mean, that is how it is, because there's the people that are into this, and then there's the people that aren't.
Yeah.
And so you kind of learn that, I think. Those experiences a lot of times are what separates, guys like us and the people who, appear and hang out in this podcast, and then the rest of the world.
Right. Well, Mark and I have always said we love talking to the skeptics the most.
Yeah. Not that we try to convince them.
Right.
But I guess we want to tell them that stuff like this is happening. We can't explain it. Skeptics, we love to talk with them the most, just to pick their brain and see why they don't believe in this stuff.
I think a lot of people too, they just think, well, if they've never had something weird happen to them, they're just like, well, they must be making it up. Either they're crazy or they're lying, and not understanding that, you guys are telling me your experiences right here, and the people on the podcast can't see your faces and everything, but you're saying, this is what I saw, this is the thing, and whatever it is, you believe it happened to you. And it's not a matter about being crazy or a matter about lying. Something happened to you. And if you would have said like, the shadow figure then came to my house and we talked it over and stuff like that, I found out his name was Bob, and then we started hanging out after that, then I'd be like, okay, we'll talk about this later. But the fact is, weird things happen to people. And if you can't find some explanation for it, which seems almost impossible, you at least need to be able to explain it in a safe space. And I think that's one of the things when you talk about groups like Haunt Investigators of Michigan, that's what you help provide.
Right.
So you guys got into this, sounds like at a pretty young age, and you guys met because Mark W., you were friends with Mark O.'s sister.
Yes.
Okay. And so did, like, nearby towns or same kind of high school or?
Well, I live in the Detroit area, Dearborn.
Okay.
And Mark's out in Northville. So he's actually, we're totally different parts. But my sister worked with him for many, many, many years and didn't even know this guy he existed until basically it was a chance meeting. I don't know where we were at, but he said, I work with your sister. Been working with her for, 25 years at the airlines. Yeah. Oh, wow. So
I didn't even know you existed.
No, so that's how we met. But I actually started investigating even before Salem was back in the 84, 85. Was down in the Myrtles Plantation down in Louisiana.
Okay, yeah, oh yeah.
It's supposed to be America's favorite or most haunted house, and was that down there with a buddy, and we started taking infrared pictures. So I actually started back in the 80s as far as doing the investigation, but really just let it go until 2012 when we started, okay, let's just do this.
It's funny you talk about the Myrtles. We have an episode about the Myrtles, but also my sister and I stayed down there one summer when we visited Louisiana. And the funny thing is, like, so we had our parents just like dropped us off and they went to go back to New Orleans and we were there just, staying there. And I thought that there'd be somebody staying on the plantation with you, or there'd be more like security or something for a haunted place. No, there was somebody staying like half a mile away, and it was just your group staying over in the haunted house.
Yeah.
And they tell you like, well, here's the places that you're not supposed to go to, and that's it. You're like, it's just me and the angry slave ghosts.
Right. Yeah.
Great.
We didn't see anything, but we did take pictures, but nothing came up of the film. We didn't catch anything, so. But.
No, we didn't find anything either. The scariest thing was that I was just scaring the crap out of myself that night.
Yeah.
Right.
So 30 years ago, you were working on this. And Mark W., when did you start getting interested in investigation?
Oh, I would probably say about the time I saw the shadow figure down in my friend's basement. That really I had an out-of-body experience before that, but just seeing the shadow figure really got me interested in it. So I took it to the next step and started doing little investigations here and there, doing some audio, some EVPs. So, and it just rolled over to what we're doing now. So just one thing led to another.
So how big is the group right now?
7 people?
7 of us.
I'm trying to think. There's about 7 of us. And usually not everybody can make it. So, the 7 is kind of a good number. I mean, we can get as big as, 20, because people are always asking us, hey, can I join your group? Can I join your group? During our paranormal dinners, people ask us afterwards, hey, can I come with you guys? How do I join? So we like to keep it at a minimal, because during investigations in some places, we can't have everybody there. It's just way too many people for investigations. So the 7's a good number for us.
Yeah.
And somebody that's been on the podcast a couple of times too, Lisa Van Buskirk, who's works as our Madison Ghost Tour guide.
Yeah, she's great. Hey, Lisa.
Yeah.
Well, hi, Lisa.
How you doing, Lisa?
She'll be listening. And she was with you in one of your paranormal investigations at the Whitney.
Yes.
And let's talk about it a little bit, because the Whitney's kind of be the focus of this episode, because it was the featured investigative spot on the last episode of Sci-Fi's Ghost Hunters show, which when it first was on, I didn't miss it. Now I just watch it every once in a while, but it's still interesting. It's still, the reality TV thing still blows my mind every once in a while when you see the flash pans and, it's still fun. So you guys when Lisa joined you and you talk about your paranormal dinners, you guys have a regular investigation that you do at this house in the Detroit area, right?
Regular investigations, we can get in there and investigate whenever we want.
Yeah.
Okay.
One Sunday out of the month, we host a paranormal dinner. So it's a 5-course meal, and at the end of the meal, we do our presentation. We'll show them audio, video, pictures of all the activity that we caught. So that's once a month. And during October, during the Halloween, we do it more and more as far as more days because it's just bigger and bigger. But there's investigations.
Right, but the Halloween's more entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
But we still have a great time doing it.
Yeah.
But
as far as investigations, we can do it whenever we want. And we were there last night holding a meeting because we're going to do another investigation because there's 3 buildings on the ground there.
Let's go into the history a little bit, just of the place to kind of set the stage for people who may not have seen that Ghost Hunters episode yet, or who might be unfamiliar with the place. So this is the Whitney Mansion, and this is a massive house built by a lumber baron.
Yes, David Whitney.
And what year did he build the house? 1890?
1890 to 1894.
Okay.
And it's actually 21,000 square feet.
Okay, so I'm in a little studio right now, so it's like let me just think how much. It's like 44 times the size of the room I'm in right now.
Yeah, the place is massive and it's beautiful. We love going there.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Stained glass, Tiffany stained glass, just beautiful.
And David Whitney was a lumber baron.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those great. You think of the titans of industry at the end of the 19th century, right? Like Rockefeller or Carnegie or all these people that made a massive amount of wealth. David Whitney falls into that group.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. He was actually one of the richest men in the state of Michigan at the time.
He's originally from Massachusetts.
Right.
Took his lumber business to the Midwest. And I think he had a lumber business in, I think it was Wisconsin, and then in the Michigan area. And then he let the Wisconsin area go, focused in Michigan, built a home. 1894 was complete. Beautiful, big home. Just if you guys watch the episode, you'll see it. They'll show the inside, how big it is on the outside.
And it was the first home in the country, in the United States, to have a working elevator inside, right? Like it's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you have a rich friend and the guy's got a McMansion or something huge, in the burbs. It still don't have an elevator.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. And this one had one.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison actually did some electrical work inside the house.
Yeah, on the first floor. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Like, because I guess electricity was just coming into fashion, or probably lights and stuff on the inside.
One of the first houses with electricity. It was, maybe not the first, but real close to having being the first for electricity.
So it's a real historical place, and there's 3 different buildings on the property.
Yes. The building behind the Whitney is the carriage house, and they featured that's featured on the show. They show the guys going up there, and the other building is the Canfield house, which is, as you know, when the Whitneys passed it, they passed the business, or not the business, but the building onto the Wayne County Medical Society. So it was actually a hospice, and people did pass away.
Yes.
And they took the bodies of the deceased into the Canfield house, and they stored them there until it was time to process or be moved on. So
that's one building the Ghost Hunters didn't get into.
Yeah, but the carriage house in the back, that one's probably the most active of the buildings that we've investigated.
All right, have you investigated all 3 buildings?
We're going to be doing the Canfield house come
the 4th, September 4th.
September 4th. So we're going to do all 3 at the same time. We're going to rotate the crew, but we've never done the Canfield house because they never thought about investigating it, because that's where the bodies were kept. So that'll be a first for us. But the other 2 we've done.
Okay, well, let's go into that a little bit. So when was the first time that you guys investigated the Whitney?
You want to tell them the story how it actually happened?
When was the first time we've been to the Whitney or investigated?
How we got involved with the Whitney?
Yeah, how did you guys get involved with the place? Because it was a hospice for a while, and that's a place you're not going to want to hang out at.
No,
right? Nobody's like, hey, let's go to the hospice. Let's lift our spirits.
Well, that was way before our time, the hospice.
Okay,
Right.
and then was it a private residence again, or when did it become a restaurant/bar kind of entertainment place?
I would say the 80s, early 80s. It was somebody bought it, and I don't have any names,
Sure.
the person who bought it. But they had, I think it was a restaurant. Then it was passed on to Bud Liebler, who bought it.
Right.
Oh gosh, my dates, I can't think of the dates, but he turned it into a restaurant. And he originally just wanted to buy the carriage house in the back, but the owner said, no, it's a package deal.
So he bought the whole thing.
He bought everything. So.
Okay, so it's just one of those, because there's a lot of places where older mansions eventually become restaurants. There's a very famous place in St. Paul called the Four Paw Restaurant, and the Four Paw too has a ton of ghost stories from the things that happened there when it was a private residence. And in between, in the area I grew up, my first job was I was a busboy at a restaurant that used to be, well, it started out as a home, and then it became a brothel, and then it became a church, and then it became, all these different things, and then it eventually becomes a restaurant. So the Whitney sounds like it's one of those great traditions of some massive, beautiful Victorian structure eventually becomes a place where, well, people might like to eat here, and because of all the history, there's stories associated with it. So how did you guys get associated with it?
It was God, it was my bachelor party. We had
all right.
We had heard about the Whitney Ghost Bar. Even though we were in the paranormal, we did some early stages of investigating. We had heard about the third floor of this place is called the Ghost Bar. Never been to the third floor, but I actually have been in the house for past Christmas parties with companies. So we just got back from the casino. Mark hit for $300-$400 on a slot machine.
Hey.
Yeah.
So drinks on Mark.
Yeah, well, literally. Yeah. So we went to the Whitney, and it was probably 11 o'clock. We get to the door. The host answers. She says, "Hey guys, you guys here for a dinner?" I said, "No, we want to go to the Ghost Bar." She says, "Well, it is closed, but you guys want to go ahead and look. Go right ahead." So we walked up to the third floor. It's about 15 of us guys are staying at the Ghost Bar. It's absolutely beautiful in there, and we're looking at each other like, okay, well, bar's closed, and Tony, the manager, comes walking up. He says, "Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry, but the bar is closed today." Mark looked over at Tony and said, "I got $300 since you're open."
Yeah.
And he opened a bar.
Yeah, and that's how it started for us.
That's how it all started.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, it worked out great.
The third floor, they actually call it the Ghost Bar, so they use some of the, the legends associated with the place in the marketing.
Yes.
Of it.
Yeah.
Any kind of particular specials in there? Do they call anything like the?
Yeah.
I
had about 5 of them last night. It was it was a martini called the Witch's Brew or the Witching Hour. Yeah, it was a great night.
All right, good.
It was.
And you guys didn't see anything that first night though. When you talked to Tony, you talked to the bartenders and everything. Did you ask him like, "Hey, have you guys seen anything weird here, or is everybody just partying?"
No, not that first night. No, not the first night. We started going back maybe a few weeks later. Then we'd ask the people that worked there what experiences they had, and then the floodgates open, and then you would hear story after story after story, and then what happened was we gave Tony our number. He knew what we did as far as a hobby. And he said that the Motion Picture Institute of Michigan were doing the students were doing a documentary on paranormal, on ghosts. So he called us up. He asked us, "Hey, would you guys like to be involved in their film?" And we said, "Yeah." So we actually jumped on board. And I told Mark, I said, "We have to do this because they're going to ask somebody else, and they're going to be the lucky people, the investigators to get the Whitney.
We have to do this."
So we did it, and that's how we got stuck. Not stuck in a good way. Right. We got stuck at the Whitney. Yeah.
When you guys did your first investigation, what do you think was the best story you heard from somebody that worked at the Whitney before you guys went in to do that first research night?
It would have to be Grace's table.
Well,
what do you say? Probably.
Grace's table came in afterwards because it was.
I think what grabbed us the most, though, eventually.
Yeah, I think so. But we'd heard stories of David Whitney actually disappearing through the floor in one of the rooms. So we were focused as far as the mansion itself, as far as investigating. And we heard the story about Grace's table, which is in the carriage house. Grace was the oldest daughter of David Whitney, who used to have tea up in the carriage house. So we ended up going to the carriage house and trying to get Grace to talk to us. Little did we know we got more than Grace, actually, on audio.
How did you guys do that then? What kind of equipment do you guys use when you go investigate?
the number one thing that we use is audio. Digital recorder is probably the best equipment that we can walk away with. I'll take that audio equipment.
Absolutely.
But we use an EMF, an EDI meter, which is basically the same thing. Our SLS XCam, which is what they use on the Ghost Adventures. It's the video that measures the temperature, senses distance, night vision. Yeah. But we actually use that and been very, very lucky catching figures on this up in the carriage.
Some stick figures.
So the LSSX cam, I think I saw that when we were doing an investigation at a place called the Old Baraboo Inn here in Wisconsin. Is that where you see the stick figures moving around?
Yes.
Okay, and I know they use that on Ghost Adventures. Now, that's temperature or what exact? Because I couldn't figure out exactly what the science was behind it.
You know, I wish I was the inventor of that thing because I'd be making a lot of money. But it uses thermal temperature, distance. And there's one more. It's like 3 different pieces of equipment in one. And it escapes me what the other one is.
But it was a really interesting piece of work. And you said that, you know, you've got a lot of activity with the SLX cam in the carriage house. Now, let's set this up real quick. So on the show, and we can talk about the difference between the stuff that you've seen there and the stuff they saw on the show. But on the show, it showed the tea set up on the table.
Yes.
And they were trying to talk to Grace, David Whitney's daughter, who used to have tea in the carriage house. And the whole tea set was set up on the table in this carriage house. People don't usually go in there, right?
No. It's because there's a lot of there are some boards in there, like floorboards that are kind of weak. They don't allow people in certain areas. A lot of people, but you know, it's not open to the public. But when we do the paranormal tours presentations, we will go up there with probably 20, 30 people and talk a little about Grace's table, what happens.
And so the tea set is set up all the time, or that was just for the show?
No, it's all the time.
Yep. Nobody touches it. Just leave it alone.
Okay. Now let's set up the investigation that they did there in the show. So they had the 2 girls go up there, Grant's wife and somebody else. And then they had 2 of the, like Dustin go up there too.
And KJ.
Dustin and KJ went up there too. Yeah. And they both went there at separate times. But the idea, like, this is where most of the activity that I think that happened in the show of the Ghost Hunters was in the carriage house, and it was specifically around Grace's table.
Yeah.
Now, besides the tea set up all the time and that Grace used to go there to have tea, is there any kind of other legend associated with that place?
Other than Grace?
Yes, with the carriage house.
Oh, with the carriage house. Well, the Visiting Nurses Association set up offices up there. And we've actually had, during one of our tours, separate empath sensitives that actually had sensed an angry man, a small child, and a woman. And we were actually surprised by that because we knew that before they told us this. So the empaths, they were actually almost dead on from what they were feeling, what they were sensing, or what they were seeing. Because we did catch a small child on audio singing to us.
Yes.
In the show, what happens is they're up there and then they move like one of the cups on the table or whatever. And then I can't think of what the name of the it's like an antenna-like piece of ghost hunting equipment.
Yeah, a REM pod.
Yeah, a REM pod. And can you explain that real quick for people that might not know what a REM pod is?
It's I'm trying to think of the size comparisons. Probably it's not big, but what it does is it senses the environment and also senses temperature. And basically any electromagnetic field that basically it's in the area, and they say ghost to be able that's what they emit or put out. So anything that comes near this antenna, it'll activate it, it'll set it off. So you can just put your hand on it and touch it, it'll activate it. But,
and it's kind of like that same thing, like a TV antenna.
Yeah,
as far as size wise.
Yeah, it's a small little. I'm trying to think maybe like a large hockey puck, and with an antenna sticking out through the top of it.
And it goes off you put it down, and then you ask the ghost a question, and they go like something like
absolutely.
It's like your smoke detector going off.
Right.
So that's just want to set it up to explain for the people listening. So in the show, they move one of Grace's cups, and then they say something. They're like, "Are you if you're here, can you say something, Grace? And all of a sudden the REM pod goes off, and then there's a movement behind Dustin or something like that. So like that, it seemed like the carriage house, that was the most interesting to me, that they asked a question, the REM pod went off, and some movement happened.
Yeah.
And then they also said like, hey, can we hear your voice? And you hear like a, to them it sounds like something. To me it sounds like somebody going like this. So I didn't quite catch it. So that was the evidence they found in the carriage house in the show. Now, what kind of stuff have you guys found in the carriage house?
We left our cameras rolling one day. We left it rolling for 4 days. We actually had toys set out because of the story of the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
We had a doll. We had a coloring book. Just some toys. Whether it was a little boy or a little girl, we didn't know. We had our cameras running for 4 days. And on the fourth day, Mark and myself, just us two, we went back to the carriage house to start breaking down equipment. And it wasn't until later, until we started listening to the audio, is what we caught. And during that stretch of time, when we were up there for about an hour, we caught, I think, 4 different EVPs. What we do usually when we walk up there, we'll announce ourselves. And I yelled out, "Anybody here?" And what we caught back was a yes. It was like a long, drawn-out yes. You can hear that. After breaking it down, you could hear us breaking the boxes and tearing things apart. We caught, to me, it sounds like a small boy humming a song. You can actually hear him humming a song. Another one is 2 men actually telling us to get out.
Get out.
Your classic, typical ghost, get out. Just like that.
So you guys heard, it sounded like 2 people saying it, or like a get out kind of thing?
It was 2, to me, it sounded like an angry man and another man at the same time saying the word get out. But that's what I hear, because everybody will hear different things.
Right, interpret it different.
Yeah.
So these EVPs happened, would you say, within a certain time frame of you guys being in there? Because you said you had the cameras up for a long time.
Yeah.
This happened all in the time that you had come to grab the stuff?
Yes. Yeah. And it seems like the activity happens when there's people there to interact. They want to talk to you. They want to know what's going on. But when there's nobody there, I mean, you get your strange sounds, your bumps, your knocks. We don't know what that is. But the activity as far as talking, we caught that while we were there in a short time, too.
And so you got there. So what kind of recorder did you set up? Did you set up just your iPhone or a digital audio recorder? What did you use to record the stuff?
Digital recorder. But we also had our DVR security cameras in each room. So we had video going at the same time.
Okay. It sounds like that the EVPs you got when you were there were several different entities. So you said, sound like at least an angry man, and then another guy, and then a boy.
Yeah.
And then did you catch a little girl? Did you catch Grace?
Well, we caught a woman. And during the Ghost Hunter show, when you see Dustin and KJ up there talking to Grace, I think there was a part where they were talking as if Grace was a small child. Because Grace was an older woman when she came back and had tea. She lived overseas. Yeah, she wasn't a little. Well, she was an older woman as she had tea. So, but I think they were talking as if she was a little kid.
Yeah. They made it sound like there was just some little girl in the room. But that's interesting that so this was Grace Whitney.
Yes,
and she might have grown up there, but she also came back there as an older woman.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she lived overseas and came back as an older woman, and that's when she used to have tea up in the carriage house, not as a child.
Oh, okay. And that's interesting to me because, first of all, it makes it sound like if they did hear a voice of a child, then it might have been that boy you were talking about that was humming, versus Grace, because the way they made it sound like a little girl having a tea party with her teddy bears or something like that,
Yeah. But one of the empaths or sensitives that we know, friends of ours, actually, she said she saw a little girl, a small girl, described her in a dress, hair, running between rooms as if she was playing. So she said, she's saying that there's a little girl. It could have been a little boy and a little girl. So, but as far as Grace, we know Grace as the older woman.
Okay.
That had teeth.
Right.
But we did catch a woman's voice actually thanking us for coming up there. So you can hear her clear as day. Thank you for coming.
Now, when you had the empath in there, and you said it was interesting that you guys had caught these EVPs and the empaths had heard the same thing?
Well, they had described who was up there. A couple of different empaths actually said there's an angry man in this area, and the angry man was just in the other room where Grace's table was at, where I guess he likes to stay. But we caught the voices of the angry man in the room before Grace's table, as if he was in that room telling us to leave, because he was actually telling us to get out.
But they caught that independently of you. They caught you didn't say like, "Hey, we heard a man's voice say get out" before they heard that.
Yeah, no, they didn't know anything about Grace's table or the carriage house. All that information was kept back, so they didn't know anything. So, but when they started on separate occasions telling us what they're sensing, what they're feeling, I look over at Mark, he looks over at me, and we just kind of like,
yes,
okay, well,
yeah, we have something here.
Keep telling us something.
Right.
Tell us more what you're feeling, what you're sensing.
Well, that's exciting. I mean, that's like when you talk about your friend confirming the shadow figure.
Yes.
It's those little bits of independent confirmation that make the investigation really exciting, because now you're like, all right, well, if people are picking up the same kind of things, now there's something to it. So you guys have been investigating the carriage house. And when the place was a hospice, was the carriage house was that place used then?
For offices mainly.
Offices.
Okay, so that was offices mainly. And what's interesting about it is that because there were offices there, because it was a hospice, because it was a family home, because it later became even a restaurant, where a lot of action happens, a lot of people pass through, that angry man could come from anywhere.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be a member of the family. He
Oh.
could have been a guy who was mad. He didn't like to work there. Like, he didn't like going to work every day. Who does? So he's,
Right. Yeah,
he's
it
like-
could be anything. You maybe was attached to something, and it could have been anything.
It could have been an older man that actually, passed
Right.
as a patient there, and he's still hanging around.
So that's some of the action you guys experienced in the carriage house. Now, in the show, Grant spends he spends his whole time in the main mansion. And they go up bit by bit through the mansion, and he doesn't really find anything, I don't think. He doesn't really get any evidence. They talked about the elevator following people. So we talked about how it was a home, with the first home with an elevator in the United States. And that the legend was that the elevator would follow you and open the doors. And
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
he figured out that it was, that the elevator just, whatever floor it stops on, it just opens the doors every 5 minutes.
Well, I don't know if I really agree with because he said he debunked it, and I don't think I really agree with that.
Not that.
Well, go ahead, Mark.
Not that we don't think it's a ghost is doing that, but like you said, he was saying he timed it every 5 minutes. And
Well, we've known, about 6 months ago, that couple was up at the Ghost Bar. There was a couple with a little child, and they were going to take the elevator down to the first floor. The elevator opens, the child looks in there, and even though there was nobody in the elevator, the child refused to get in the elevator. He looked at his mom and dad and said, "That elevator's full. I'm not getting on there." So, and that kid refused to get on the elevator.
yeah,
And there was nobody in the elevator.
There's nobody on the elevator.
Oh, that's
And
great.
The kid would not get on the elevator. He said it's full. So that's why I don't want to say they prove that it's debunked, but we've heard other stories of that happening also.
and there's another story about the elevator that
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know.
Right. Go ahead.
I was reading a blog, and a woman said the Whitney always talks about how haunted the place is, but yet they've never talked about. She says her grandfather was working at the bottom of the elevator in the shaft, repairing it. As the elevator came down, it killed him. She said her grandfather worked on the elevator back in the late 60s or something. So she says that they never talk about my grandfather who had passed away in the elevator. Now, is the elevator riding up and down because the spirit doesn't want it on itself anymore? That's possible. But
Right.
the stories that we've heard
Right.
about the elevator and about the child
Not
refusing
wanting-
to get on because there's too
Right.
many people.
So for them to say that they debunked it,
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, so maybe the elevator's not following people, but there's definitely activity associated with the elevator.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And have you guys had any personal experiences or anything, or felt cold spots, or had any readings or any weird stuff or photos from there?
In the elevator or in the house?
We'll get to the mansion, but in the elevator.
No, well, Mark's girlfriend Kathy, while we were doing
That was kind of weird. But
we're doing an investigation, and she was riding the elevator, and it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. The elevator gets stuck between floors.
Okay.
So she's trapped inside the elevator. We're trying to get her out. The manager's with us, of course, Tony. He's with us every time we do investigation. So we finally get her out. But that was really the only thing that we've experienced as far as the elevator. Were they pissed off, that
Right.
we're in the elevator investigating and they said, I'm going to stop this elevator on you or what? Who knows?
Right. It's a 126-year-old elevator. A lot of different things could happen.
Yeah. So,
Right.
we don't know.
But for it to happen at that certain time.
Yeah, while we were
But
investigating.
until we prove anything, no.
So you guys haven't got any EVPs or anything particularly in there?
No.
No, not in the elevator.
And we've tried, but,
Yeah.
spirits are not going to talk to you when they, when you want them to. They only do it when they're ready to. So,
That's exactly right.
yeah.
So, and also Grant found this secret passage, or he found like a secret button that opened to a safe. Was that really a secret, or did they tell him about that before he
Well,
did it?
do you know something that we don't, or what? No, it's hard to find that door.
Right.
You can't find it in the daytime.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Did they tell them?
they probably
They
did.
probably did, but
Hollywood,
that's our personal opinion. But
Sure.
Hollywood wants to make it exciting.
Right.
No, and that's fine. I was just wondering about it because he acts like he's like, "Wow, it's a secret passage." I'm like, "Okay, it's a secret door. That's pretty cool." To a safe, that's really cool. But it's like Al Capone's vaults. Come on, what'd you get?
Yeah,
Right.
You just don't stumble upon that
Right.
secret door. We've been in there a million times, and we've been in every room, and you just don't find it. It's too hard. Yeah.
Well, one of the stories they also featured, or one of the experiences they also featured in the show, is something they didn't actually get on camera, but they were standing at the front was it the front staircase?
Yeah.
And so
Right,
look
the
at
main door, basically.
Yeah.
they open the main door, and one of the investigators is sitting there with one of the camera guys and sees some kind of light, like dancing around, and then fly down the staircase and move off to their right. And the camera guy's like, "Holy crap!" Like he, the camera's like, "Hey, that was amazing," and they didn't catch any of it, even on the security camera. But what's the story with that front room and the staircase?
We've never caught anything down there. So, I mean, maybe they did catch something, but we've never caught any activity down on that first floor. And we've investigated that whole place. And, some days you're lucky, some days you're not. And they probably were lucky that day to catch something.
Okay. I mean, we'll come back to the show in a minute, but that kind of covers the stuff that they found on the show. So they had the stuff in the front. They had the carriage house voice and some movement, and the REM pod going, So that's kind of what they got on the show. Now I'm more interested in what have you guys got there? Like in the main mansion, what is some of your most impressive evidence that you feel like, hey, there's something there?
The carriage house, of course, seems to be the most active for us. Anytime we go up there, it seems like
I see the carriage house is probably the most impressive.
Yeah.
Because we've had stick figures that actually interact with us in the carriage house.
But the main house, the mansion itself, we've caught a couple real odd-looking pictures. We were on the third floor. We were 6 of us members, well, actually 5. We were in the carriage house trying to get Grace to talk to us. 2 members were left in the mansion. My wife and another member, he was off in another room taking pictures.
Okay.
My wife was alone on the third floor of the ghost bar. She turns on her auto recording. She says, "I'm standing here on the third floor of the Whitney Ghost Bar." That's all she says as the recorder's running. The next day, I listened to the audio, listened again. I'm listening to it. She says, "I'm standing here on the third floor of the Whitney Ghost Bar," and she catches a gentleman's voice saying the word restroom right after she says that. There was no other. Well, Ed was the only other male in the building, but he was off in another room. There's no way it could have been Ed actually talking right after her. So, but she did not hear it at the time.
Okay, so that's something that was picked up on the EVP or camera or the audio recorder.
Digital recorder. And another one was we caught a picture in a room of an older gentleman, a profile of an older man, his reflection in the mirror. Because I stood there in the room and started taking snapshot after snapshot in this one particular room. There was one member sitting in a chair below that mirror and caught in the mirror above his head an image of an older man. Just for that one image, for that one frame, then he was gone.
Okay, and so he didn't see it at the time.
No, we never did. We were the only 2 in that room. But those are the only 2 weird things that we've ever captured That was the only EVP that we were captured. So we're actually going back to do another investigation, like Labor Day weekend, just to see if we can gather more inside the mansion.
Okay, and inside the mansion is where people have said they said they have seen like a little girl, and seen the ghost of David Whitney and stuff. So there's been some visual manifestations of people's have said they've seen things and stories and stuff, but you guys haven't caught anything in particular besides the two things you had just mentioned.
Well, we've had some personal experiences happen to us as we're standing there. We had a group, paranormal dinner, and we had about 25, 30 people in a room, all sitting in chairs, and we're explaining to them what we do, what we caught. And we had all our equipment on a table right by between me and Mark.
Okay.
And as one of the dinner guests actually says, have you guys ever had any experiences here in the house? Just like you're asking, the door of this dresser opens up by itself. And I look down at it. I look at Mark. The couple that asked that question now they're dumbfounded and looking like, did that just happen? And it did. It actually, and it happened twice to us. It actually, as I'm explaining the stories, a drawer just opens up by itself. So I look back. I'm like, okay, well, there it is again. Was it a paranormal or was it just a coincidence? We don't know.
Still pretty weird.
Yeah, pretty weird.
So as most of the activity that you guys have found happens in the carriage house. Now, when you were talking about the stick figures interacting with the people, what do you mean by that?
Well, we were in the carriage house, and we had the X-cam pointed into the rafters in the second floor of the carriage house because some of the sensitives said that they had sensed a man in that area, in that direction. And this is way before we started even using the X-cam. It was on order.
Okay.
So when we finally got it, we were going to test it out and point it into the rafters. Little did we know, two figures actually started to appear on the camera. We're like, okay, is there somebody up there, or are we getting a false reading from this X-cam?
Sure.
So in order for us to really verify if we got something paranormal, now we have to interact with it to see if these figures are going to do what we ask it to do. So as we're pointing up there, we're asking questions, and we're asking this ghost if it would come down, if it's a child, if it wants to play tag, if it wants to play hide and seek. So as we're saying these things, the figure starts to climb down from the rafters, which is we're looking at this thing like, is this really happening?
Oh man!
Yeah. So we're actually catching this on video.
Out from the rafters.
So it's it actually did what we asked it to do. So we're like, okay, we know we've caught voices up here. Now we've got a figure that we're catching on video, the stick figure. Now it's doing what we're asking it to do. Do we really have a ghost here or what?
Right. So that sounds to me like, that to me has all the hallmarks of an intelligent.
Yeah.
That's not just a haunting where it might be a recording of something. That's that's something that communicates with you.
Absolutely.
Well, same with the little child stick figure we caught on the first floor. We actually had a group of people, and we were on the first floor, and we picked up the stick figure. It looked like a little child, just standing, maybe 10, 15 feet from us, not far.
Not even that.
And we asked one of the guests to go out there and stand next to the stick figure. And once they got close to the stick figure, we told them to stop. And then we asked the stick figure, he said, would you like to interact with this? Would you like to play with this? And we told our guest to put his hand out. And he put his hand out. And we said, whoever you are, could you touch his hand? And the stick figure actually reached out and touched his hand.
Oh man! So that was like some kind of interaction with.
Yes.
If it uses if you say that you can see, or that this camera, the SLS X-cam, can see things by using temperature and electromagnetic field and the whole deal. And do you guys have any of these videos online where we can link to them for people?
Yeah, it's on our Facebook site.
Yes.
And all the videos that we've done are on there. So it's you got to do a little searching through our Facebook, but you'll find all the videos and stuff that we've done.
I'll take a look at these, and then we'll have these on the show notes. If you're listening right now and you want to see these videos, othersidepodcast.com/106 is where you can find that.
And it's also on YouTube.
Fantastic. Now, you guys had a big viewing party on Wednesday night at the Whitney, right?
Yeah, yes. Great time.
Okay, and so it's fun to have a viewing party. It's fun to be like, this is the place where they actually shot, and they shot everything last year, correct?
The episode?
Yeah.
Yes, it was last year.
So that was all shot last year and just broadcast this week. So, when you guys were watching it, was there any groan-inducing moments? Was there anything that you guys you didn't get this right, or you made that up for TV, or what were those moments?
Yeah, we did get some of those moments where it's like, we shook our head here and there, and we said, okay, well, some of it was, you can actually say they did catch something, but I didn't want to sound
right. We really hate this.
Yeah.
Sure, but when people are looking for the real story or thing, do you feel like anything was misrepresented between the experiences you had and the work you guys have put in investigating it and what the average person might think about the Whitney?
No, I think, as far as the show, they did a good job. Ghost Hunters did a real good job. Other than the secret door,
right?
They had to have known about that.
Right.
But no, they did a great job.
And the bench.
All right, he finds the bench and tries to find something.
That was they were told that was.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't find these things, but no, they did a good job on the show. So.
Well, that's great because you always hear stories of oh man, when they filmed the reality TV show here, it was completely misrepresented or they completely screwed it up. But if they got the history and the spirit of the place correct, that's what counts.
Yeah, for the most part, For the most part, they did a good job.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that because my experiences with reality television have always been people are like, oh my God, they edited this to make it look so stupid. And and were the people that own the place, the managers, everything, were they pleased with how everything looked and turned out?
Yeah, I believe so. They were there at the viewing
party, right? And
they enjoyed it. It was a great time. So
okay,
good time for everybody.
Yeah, it was a really good time.
Okay, that's awesome. And then it also drums up some interest for your next paranormal dinners and the next time you guys have an investigation and everything. Now you can point to people too. It's like, okay, here's what we found. And if you want to see, a 45-minute summary of the place that we love to investigate, here's an example now you can find on the Sci-Fi Network.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
So, but the Whitney is just one place that you guys have done, right? I mean, we got time for probably a couple more stories, and I'm interested in, so the Whitney's fun, and it's a place you guys can keep coming back to, and it's a bar and it's a restaurant, so it's a place where you can keep coming. Like we have places in Madison, like certain bars that are haunted that we do in the ghost tours and everything. It's like, well, you want to go to those places because they're fun and they have stories and history. In your other investigations, what do you think is the top piece of evidence that you guys have gotten in the past few years?
Wow. There's a few places that we've been to that we've caught some great EVPs. The Queen Mary was one.
The floral shop in Brooklyn.
A florist shop here in Michigan. It was an afternoon investigation. Yeah. Caught one of the loudest EVPs we've ever captured ever.
Okay, so let's set the stage for the floral shop here. First of all, so how old was the building?
Well, I don't know the date, but it was a brothel at one time, a restaurant. I think it was a bank. Now it's a florist shop.
So it used to sell deflowering, and now it sells flowers.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was a funeral parlor.
Right, funeral parlor.
There's 2 apartments that were upstairs of this building. A guy committed suicide.
Right.
We were down in the basement.
Where the shrine.
Where they had
surrounded by sea salt.
Yeah, it was a shrine where
it had a goat's head and 2 deer.
Yeah,
it was a 2 deer head and a goat's head in it.
Yeah,
and we were told not to mess with it. Don't touch it.
Okay, all right, hold on, dudes. So, how did you guys hear about this place?
It was one of our members loves to go out in the country and do some antique shopping, and ran across this florist shop. They walked in and they looked at the flowers, and they just happened to have a discussion with the owner about ghosts. And she says, well, I'm part of a team. If you're interested to have somebody come out, we can come out and investigate. So we came out the following week. She was really excited about it. 2:00 in the afternoon, caught some of the best amazing evidence we've ever caught.
Okay, so you guys go out there in the afternoon, and so the florist shop is the main thing. So you get there, and who tells you that there's some kind of altar in the basement?
Angel, the owner of the florist shop.
Now, is this something she made, or was it already there, or?
It was already there. We don't know how long it's been there, but when she actually bought the floral shop, the owner told her, do not disturb it. Just leave it alone.
Okay, so some heavy metal band made an altar in the basement with a goat's head and a couple of deer?
Yeah. Surrounded by sea salt, and in a window. And the room it was in, a medium told us there was, 7 or 8 demons in there?
Yeah.
So what kind of weird, maybe satanic, I don't know, ritual they were doing, we don't know. We really couldn't get any more information because they really didn't want to tell us.
Right, and they may not have known anything about it. Just when they bought the building, the previous owner says, yeah, there's an altar with some goat's head. Yeah,
That's what he told you.
Yeah.
you know what? Don't even sweat it.
Yeah.
Right. But we would really love to know more about the shrine, but they wouldn't tell us anymore.
Okay.
There's a shrine down there, and it's surrounded by sea salt. There's 8 demons in this room,
and she asked us, "You guys want to investigate us?" And yeah,
absolutely.
That's why we're here. And we caught an amazing EVP, loudest EVP we ever caught.
So that's a good setup, and when you get in there, there's some kind of people have reports of activity happening in the flower shop. Now, when you guys get this EVP, what are you saying? How many people are in the room? Who's doing the talking? What happened?
2 people, 2 investigators are in that room. Mark and myself, we were in another part of the building, investigating another area. One member, Ray, he actually has his digital recorder up to this shrine because it's like on top by a window. The other member, Ed, he's off to the side, and they're in this. It's a very small room. It's a small bathroom, and Ray's asking all a bunch of questions, and he looks over to Ed and says, "Ed, is there anything you'd like to say?" And the only thing Ed says is, "I would like to take your picture." So between the time Ray says, "Would you like to add anything?" and Ed saying, "I want to take your picture," we get a male voice and saying the word "no," but he says it so loud in an angry way, and it's as loud as we're talking.
Okay.
And when I put on our analyzer, I have a audio software. You can't even see the word "no" as it's, you have the analyze the audio line,
the WAV file.
Yeah, so you can actually hear, you can see Ray, but you see nothing when the man says no. Then you hear Ed and the WAV file.
We actually have video of it on our site.
Yeah, we actually have an audio of that
of the shrine also.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to link to that from
Absolutely.
the Mystery Floral Shop in Detroit. Oh man, I got to thank you guys very much for joining us today on the show. We really appreciate it. Now, if people want to find more about the Haunt Investigators of Michigan, where can they find that?
On Facebook. And there is a link to our webpage on Facebook.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And if somebody is in the area and might have an interesting place for you guys to investigate or might have some experiences, do you guys do homes as well as
Yes, we
businesses?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Haunt Investigators of Michigan are ready to believe you. And we'll have that linked up. So if you're in the Detroit area and you've had some kind of experiences, these are one of the groups you can call who are reliable and safe and trusted in this kind of thing, not to take advantage of you or screw up or charge or anything like that, right?
Absolutely. Correct.
Fantastic.
We're going to give you an open invitation.
Yes, open invitation.
On Labor Day, we're going to be doing the Whitney investigating along with the Canfield House. We have a professional piano player who's going to play while we're investigating and stop to see if we get a reaction from the ghost of David Whitney's daughters, who are also pianists. So we're giving you an invitation to come out with Lisa, if you want.
Come on out,
investigate the Whitney
Lisa.
with us on Labor Day weekend.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if we'll make it Labor Day, but I'm definitely going to make it to do an investigation. And Lisa's going to probably take us, the group, around Detroit, and we'll all come back and we'll do an investigation at the Whitney with you guys.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I thought those were really nice guys.
Oh, yeah.
And there's none of the usual, like, Michigan-Wisconsin rivalry
Yeah, that's nice.
that you can have with sometimes people from the Midwest. Like, obviously, it's not Ann Arbor versus Madison today, so it was nice to just talk
Yeah.
about ghosts with a Michiganite, a Michigander.
Well, right. And our fellow paranormal enthusiasts tend to be pretty cool and nice people,
They do.
not jerks.
They almost changed my opinion on wanting to invade the UP and take it back.
Mike.
So the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is attached to Wisconsin, and so if you guys don't have your maps in front of you, and it's the thing is, it's attached to Wisconsin, so I think we should have it. So I've
Yeah.
always recommended, like the Wisconsin State Troopers, just crossing the line and taking it over, and that way we can have all the Bigfoots up there to ourselves.
Oh, and there's so much beautiful land up there and the boundary waters and everything.
Mhm.
Like
It's pretty.
we deserve it, I think.
I agree. So, I mean, I like those guys. It almost made me rethink my position, but they can keep Lower Michigan and Detroit and everything.
Yeah.
And they get
They
to go.
got plenty of
And
of their own.
they get to go to Canada whenever they want.
True, it's really close.
Right. And so they get to take advantage. If there's a good exchange rate, they get to go to the duty-free stores.
That's right, the duty free store. That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking.
So anyway, these guys, but I thought the Marks were great guys. I really enjoyed talking to them, and it was interesting to hear
Yes.
their perspective and their evidence on what they found at the Whitney restaurant in Detroit. But we're talking about the rivalry that Midwestern cities have, and I mean Detroit's a big city like Milwaukee or like Minneapolis or and everybody's second rate to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then we're in Madison, which is the mid-sized city, so there's not that much rivalry there. But the thing is, people from the Midwest and around the world do sometimes, they dump on Detroit like it's a punching bag.
Especially recently, it seems like.
Right, because the city's had some rough times and people treat it like a punching bag.
Sad.
Even though it's a great place, and when we've played there, we've always had good times
Definitely.
and had great people. And so, anyway, this is a song this week about how people will use other things as a punching bag to make themselves feel better. They'll, and the Germans have a word
Not
for
nice.
it. Right. And so that the Germans have a word for it, and so that we're using that word as the name of this week's song. This one's called Schadenfreude.
There's just a little part of me that's just so happy I'm not you. The Germans have a word for it. Of course they do. Of course they do. It's the speeding ticket for the other guy, and it's the coffee spilled on your dumb boss's tie. Reality TV when some dumb chick cries, oh boo-hoo, oh boo-hoo. Why do I like when shit happens to you? Why do I get a little wood when you get screwed? It's just a bit of bad luck that puts me in a good mood, oh yes it do. Because I like when shit happens to you. It's nothing personal, you see. It's just the fact that I thank God that it's not me. I know I come off like some mean-spirited twit, but don't you dare tell me you never thought about it. Well, it's on Facebook when you complain about your friends, and it's those mornings when your hair is all split ends. It's the fact that you have to wear the pens, and when you kinda wanna quit, I kinda love it because I like when it happens to you. I get a little wood when you get screwed. It's just a bit of bad luck that puts me in a good mood. Oh yes it do. Oh yes it do. Because I like when it happens to you. I get a little wood when you get screwed. It's just a bit of bad luck that puts me in a good mood. Oh yes it do. Because I like when it happens to you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.